Okay, now let's get into your assignment. So, this is the last week essentially of classes until the Easter vacation, and I've been kind of adapting with the changes presented by the coronavirus about how best to present you folks with an assessment that kind of allows you to maintain your study of global politics and also assess a little bit about what you've learned so far and put that into a constructive format. And I'm a little bit disappointed because I was looking forward to doing another spiderweb discussion with you all. I was also looking forward to doing a little bit more of an interesting group-related project regarding this material, that's related to the stuff that you read last week, in particular the foundations of geopolitics and Russian aggression throughout Europe, the United States, Asia. But life has thrown us quite a curveball and we need to adapt. So here we are. And what I've decided to do is to give you all a few, a little bit of practice with a few different elements of the IB through engaging with this material that we introduced last week. And so that is, right, the foundations of geopolitics, right, this Russian textbook that we've had a look at, their kind of laundry list of kind of the ultimate geopolitical goals that they have for to establish a more dominant position throughout Europe. I'm sure most of you found that just as interesting as I did to kind of see it all out there in the open and see how many things that they've accomplished. It's both fascinating and a little bit terrifying and unsettling. So we're going to be using that within the context of developing and arguing for either unilateral or multilateral responses. Right? And if you remember from class, unilateral would be a single country responding to Russia, right? Ukraine responding to Russia, for example. And multilateral would be either Ukraine appealing to a broad coalition of countries, but more than likely it would be a multinational, multilateral group of governments formulating a response, right, in the form of the UN or NATO or European Union or any of the many multilateral government organizations that are currently active throughout the world. Right? And so this assignment is going to be in 4 parts. Okay, and I've decided to do that partially because of the scenario that we're in now, this digital scenario, and also partially just to make it a little bit easier for you guys to stay on top of your work, because I'm really not certain what what type of work you're getting from your other classes and how much it is, or how well you all are doing at keeping on top of it. And I just want to make sure that you are able to complete this in parts if you need to. Okay, so it is essentially one essay, but it's going to be broken up into 4 parts over 4 days. Okay, so as you can see in front of you, the document that you opened up and found this video link in, right? Part 1 will be addressing the particular thing that you chose from that list, the foundations of geopolitics, right? So perhaps you're choosing Brexit, or the annexation of Ukraine, or Russia's interference in the United States elections and their, kind of implementing of digital strategies to sow discord throughout the United States. Any of those is great. Any of the other ones on the list is fantastic. I want you to, at first, right, choose, make sure you have that choice, make sure you're set in that choice, right? And you're going to be outlining what that means and then explaining why you believe addressing that issue, that phenomenon, that act is or should be a global priority, right? And you'll see, right, I say outline and I say explain. Further down in part 2, you'll see explain, bolded. Numbered part 3, you'll see compare and contrast, bolded. And finally, in part 4, you'll see suggest. Right? All of those are, as you probably know, commands terms taken from the IB. And I have a full list of the command terms down at the bottom of the document that you're looking at. So you can get a good sense of exactly what all of those mean. I think most of them are pretty straightforward, right? So so for part 1, right, that's pretty clear, right? Outline what the threat is, explain why you think it's a priority. Your solution for it, that will come later, right? Just why you think that Europe or NATO should formulate a response. Why is that such a pressing issue right now? Okay, so that's part 1. Part 2, based on your research and prior knowledge, explain why a multilateral approach to countering Russian aggression will be more successful than a unilateral approach. Here, I'm asking you to formulate an argument, okay? It's an argument through explanation. Ultimately, most people agree, right? To counter a massive threat, you need a cohesive, unified response. That seems pretty straightforward, especially with a country as large and powerful as Russia, right? So I want you to actually make an argument, right, for a multilateral response. Why should this be something that's taken care of by NATO or the UN instead of just Ukraine or just England or just the United States, okay? If you really feel strongly that a multilateral approach is not the way forward, I invite you to challenge me on that. Please formulate an argument to the contrary. I look forward to seeing what you have, what types of arguments you come up with. I will grade them based on the quality of the argument, not on ultimately my opinion on the matter or anyone else's opinion, right? I'm looking for good argumentation. I'm looking for good critical thinking skills, right? And based on the facts, okay? So if you can find some good evidence to support the fact that Ukraine has a better shot on its own, or England has a better shot on its own, or any of these countries have a better shot on their own, please, I invite you to lay it on me. Okay? Part 3. I want you to compare and contrast NATO and the United Nations, right? We've talked a lot about the United Nations. We've talked a little bit about NATO, right? You've done some reading on both now. And many of you are aware of some of the weaknesses that both organizations have. Ultimately, one of them has Russia as a key member, and the other one does not. The other one was actually created as a response to Russia and Russian aggression, okay? So I think that you can see one makes a little bit more sense than the other in this case, and I want you to explain why that is, right? Why would NATO have a better chance of addressing Russian aggression? But on the other end, why might the United Nations come up with a more comprehensive and multilateral response, right? The United Nations includes more countries, right? There's certainly more opportunity to build a coalition there, okay? So there's definitely arguments for both, right? So I want you to compare and contrast those, right? And ultimately which one would be better at the end. But I want you to list the pros and the cons of each, okay? Simple compare and contrast of the two organizations based off of the readings that you did last week and the prior knowledge that you have from our class and other readings or information that you might have, especially those who have done Model UN. Okay? And finally, based on your research, right, and your knowledge, of both NATO and the United Nations capabilities, I want you to suggest a multilateral solution to the one threat that you identified as the one that you want to focus on, right? So if you chose Ukraine, the annexation of Ukraine, right? How should NATO or the United Nations or Ukraine, how should they respond? So make a suggestion, right? This is a little bit more of, comes down to your opinion, right? And your ideas, but it still must be grounded in reality, right? No space lasers, right? No just nuking them, right? That's not a realistic solution. I want you to use the resources that I've provided you, along with others that you can find, to formulate a practical solution to a real world problem, right? The one that you are facing right in front of you, and the one that other countries in the world are currently facing. Okay? So you can tackle this assignment in any time frame that you want over the next 4 days. It is due, no matter what, by the end of the day, end of the school day, around 3 o'clock on Thursday. Okay? But if you would like to do it all tomorrow, by all means, I invite you to do that. If you'd like to do it half tomorrow, half Tuesday, half tomorrow, half Thursday, whatever. As long as you have each part in by Thursday, it makes no difference to me, right? I think this is a challenging enough thing where it could definitely take a chunk of time, but if you balance your time well, maybe 45 minutes to an hour each day would be fine. Or if you really sat down and cranked tomorrow, you could probably do it in 2 or 3 hours. It's up to you. Okay? I think I'll let you use your discretion for word choice, but I would say for the first part, maybe 150 words, and for the next 3 parts, maybe 250, in between 250 and 350 words each, give or take, right? That's not a hard number. That's just a suggestion, but I think that would be an adequate amount to make arguments like this, okay? So that's really it, right? We've got the due date. Timing is up to you. Word counts, give or take. Purpose of the assignment, how you're going to be doing it. And I think that, everything else is in your hands, so to speak. But I'm also here if you have any questions or concerns, anything at all. I'll be here at my desk all week, looking to respond to any concerns that you guys might have. But I leave the rest of this up to you for this week. And yeah, I wish you guys the best of luck, and I really look forward to reading your responses. Take care, guys. Good luck.